All right, let's dive right in. We're about to step into one of the most, well, vivid and frankly disturbing visions in the entire Bible. It's this divine tour of a temple's darkest secrets, all seen through the eyes of the prophet Ezekiel.
So what could possibly make God abandon his own temple? I mean, that's a pretty shocking question, right? And the answer, which we find in this vision, well, it's terrifying. We're about to see exactly what happens when the very heart of worship goes completely rotten.
So, picture this. It's 592 BCE. The prophet Ezekiel is in exile. He's in Babylon, far from home. And then, suddenly, he's spiritually transported. He's lifted up in a vision and taken all the way back to Jerusalem, to the temple. This is supposed to be the single most sacred place on earth, right? But the divine being guiding him, he isn't there for a sightseeing tour of its glory. No, he's there to pull back the curtain and expose its deepest, darkest secrets. So yeah, this is a tour of 4 sacred sins. And believe me, this is no ordinary tour. He's not going to be seeing holy relics or beautiful architecture. Instead, Ezekiel's taken on this journey, going deeper and deeper into the corruption at the heart of the temple, to witness 4 acts of idolatry that just get worse and worse.
And these 4 steps, they really lay out the whole structure of the vision perfectly. See, at each stage, God basically tells Ezekiel, "You think that's bad? Stick around, you will see even greater abominations." So each sin is worse than the last, and it's all building towards this absolutely awful climax.
Okay, so the first stop on this tour of horrors is what's called the image of jealousy. It's an idol, right there inside the temple grounds, most likely representing the mother goddess Asherah. But here's the thing, the real shock isn't just that there's an idol there, it's where they put it. The placement is just a total provocation.
I mean, look at this. It was positioned right at the atoning altar. This wasn't some hidden thing, it was a deliberate, public, in-your-face statement. It was basically saying that Yahweh, the God of Israel, needed a partner, a goddess wife, just like the pagan gods had. And that was a core violation of everything Israelite faith stood for, a direct challenge to God in his own house.
All right, so for the second abomination, it gets even weirder. Ezekiel's guide literally tells him to dig through a wall. And what does he find behind it? A secret chamber. And the walls of this room are covered in these engravings of, well, unclean reptiles and beasts. Think Egyptian or Babylonian gods. But the real kicker is who's in the room. You've got the 70 elders of Israel, the nation's leaders, burning incense in the dark. This is a state-sponsored secret cult happening right inside the temple walls.
So we go from a secret cult to something happening right out in the open. At the temple gate, Ezekiel sees women weeping for Tammuz. Now, Tammuz was this Mesopotamian fertility god who, in their myths, died and rose again every year. The offense here is just so deep. The God of Israel is supposed to be eternal, right? He doesn't die. So to mourn for him as if he were some mortal pagan god, it's a massive theological insult. It's a total betrayal of who they claim to worship.
And that brings us to the final and the absolute worst abomination. We're now at the very entrance to the inner court of the temple, and there, with their backs to the temple of the Lord and their faces toward the east, worshiping the sun, are about 25 men. What they're doing, it's the ultimate act of rejection.
Now here's the really tragic part. These guys probably thought they were doing the right thing. They likely intended to worship Yahweh, but they were equating him with the sun, his most glorious creation. But in the process, they literally turned their backs on the Holy of Holies, the very spot where God's presence dwelt. They were bowing to the creation instead of the Creator, which is like the textbook definition of idolatry. So even if their intentions were good, the action itself was forbidden and just deeply insulting.
Okay, so the tour of sins is over. The line has been drawn. Ezekiel has seen just how deep the rot goes. And now, the entire vision takes a sharp turn. We're moving from diagnosis to consequence. The verdict is about to be delivered.
And then a divine command goes out, and these 7 figures appear. You've got 6 of them who are clearly executioners, armed and ready. But then there's a 7th figure, one who's completely different. He's clothed in linen, like a scribe, and his job, well, it's not destruction.
So what's this scribe's mission? He's told to go through Jerusalem and put a mark on the foreheads of everyone who is genuinely heartbroken and grieving over all the terrible things they've seen happening in the city. And that mark is the Tau. It's the last letter of the Hebrew alphabet. What's really fascinating is that in the ancient script from that time, the Tau was written as a cross. So get this, the scribe isn't there to mark the guilty. He's there to mark the faithful for protection.
And if this whole marking for protection thing sounds familiar, it should.
It's a powerful parallel to the very first Passover. Remember, in Exodus, the blood of a lamb on the doorpost protected the faithful from the destroyer? Well, here in Ezekiel, it's the mark of the tau on the forehead that protects the faithful from these divine executioners. Same idea, different context.
So once the righteous have been marked and are safe, the command is given to the other 6, and it is absolutely brutal. My eye will not spare, nor will I have pity. There's no holding back, and judgment is going to begin right at the sanctuary, the very source of all this corruption. And the orders are chillingly specific. Step 1, kill everyone who doesn't have the mark. Step 2, it doesn't matter who they are, old, young, men, women, children. Step 3, start at my sanctuary. They are told to begin with the leaders, those elders that Ezekiel just saw worshiping in secret. And finally, step 4, defile the holy courts with the bodies of the slain. The very temple they corrupted with their sin is now going to be corrupted by their deaths.
Wow. Okay, that is a heavy, super intense vision from thousands of years ago. So why does this ancient vision matter? What are we supposed to take away from this terrifying tour? Let's break down some of the key lessons.
It really boils down to 2 crucial lessons. First, God's standard for judgment isn't random. The dividing line here wasn't about being perfect. It was all about the internal posture of your heart. Who was truly grieving over the evil they saw? That was the deciding factor. And second, this vision hammers home that the integrity of our worship matters. The way we worship is just as important as who we worship. Those sun worshipers, maybe they had good intentions, but it didn't matter because their actions were a forbidden violation.
And that's really the heart of it, isn't it? This whole vision forces us to look past our own intentions and really examine our actions. The sun worshipers literally turned their backs on God's presence. It's such a powerful physical picture of a spiritual reality. And it leaves us with this question that's just as piercing today as it was 2,600 years ago. What does it mean to turn your back on what you claim to worship?